Okay, folks, so there is a bit of drama online right now, a bit of a back and forth between Aries Spears and Ice Cube about Aries making comments regarding not really rocking with Ice Cube as like a rapper or actor or whatever. And this was during his appearances, I believe, on like Big Boy and Vlad TV's podcast. And I occasionally watch Vlad if there's a guest who I'm, kind of accustomed to. I mean, Godfrey was my favorite guest when he was on the pod, but then there was that drama with him and Lord Jamar versus Vlad, so they both left, even though Lord Jamar recently came back, and that, ugh. So aside from him, like DL Hughley, TK Kirkland, and Aries Spears are some of my favorites that I'd watch every time they come on. And with Aries, typically speaking, he's really only trending when he either says or posts something controversial. Typically, his hot takes on things that get people, going at him online. And I looked at a couple other YouTubers covering this story. They use clips from the podcast, and then they utilize footage of Ice Cube responding during an interview of his own on like a radio show or something, and he didn't know about it until they played it back or told him about it, and he just kind of brushed it off like, haters going to do whatever, and talking about it's subjective. Maybe I'm not somebody's favorite rapper or whatever, but I don't recall hearing anyone putting Aries in like their top 10 black comedian list or whatever. And Aries responded in regards to, and this is a statement he's made a number of times because he knows before he says or posts something that people are going to go at him in the comments for it. Basically being labeled as a hater as opposed to giving his opinion, because everybody could be subjective. Now, here's my thing. And like I said, I agree with Aries in terms of him that people are allowed to have opinions. But yes, we do live in a day and age where if you don't say a person's career is flawless, for example, Swifties, if anyone said anything negative about the what was that last album? The Tortured Poets Department. If you say you weren't really feeling that album, you're not a Swiftie, you're not a Taylor Swift fan. But it's like, I have all of her other albums and I love them. It's just that this particular album I wasn't rocking with. Nope. Why are you criticizing her? Why do you hate her? Well, same thing with Beyonce, Cowboy Carter, or, an actor in their movies, whatever the case may be. And that is too true. You have these fan bases that go hard for their, icons, if you will. And if you say anything against them, all of a sudden you're anti-woman or you hate this person or yada, yada, yada. But if I'm talking about Aries Spears specifically, again, he is entitled to his opinion. I think the thing about it, and I'm not trying to like censor him, but as someone who's watched a lot of his interviews, I think he goes a bit too far. Here's what I mean. And like I said, I'm not trying to censor the man. I'm not trying to police his thoughts or, him being unable to say his opinion. But I believe the conversation on both of the podcasts he was on where Ice Cube was brought up, the subject was, like favorite rappers. And while he'll list, like Nas or Jay-Z or Biggie or whoever, he'll mention someone who's like a fan favorite, like Ice Cube. Or maybe he won't be the one to bring him up, but let's say someone in the podcast with him brings up Tupac or Ice Cube. He'll take that and run with it. See, there's a major difference, and this is how I look at it. There's a difference between saying you don't like something versus showing full-on disdain and, dare I say, hate. If someone asked me, hey, Jeremy, is Ice Cube one of your top 5 rappers? And I said, you know what? No, he's not one of my top 5. I don't really, I'm not really a fan of his rap music. Fair enough. I said I'm not a fan of his rap music. Because guess what? The question was, hey, is he in your top 5 rappers? But to then expound upon that by saying, yo, I don't like Cube as a rapper. I don't like his lyrics. I don't rock with his movies. He can't act. He plays the same thing in every role. Oh man, I don't know why he's listed as one of the top, icons of black culture. Yada, yada. See what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference between simply answering a question pertaining to the subject at hand versus seemingly tearing down an entire career of someone. Because I can't remember, but wasn't it a couple years ago, Aries went viral because he was on I believe it was The Art of Dialogue. That was the name of the podcast he was on. And I believe he was asked a question about Lizzo. At least I think he was. But out of nowhere, he just went on this humongous tangent going at her because of her weight, saying something like she looked like a question mark. It was something like, I forgot exactly what he said, but I looked at that clip and I'm like, he just went way too far, because all the stuff he was spewing from his mouth, literally venom towards Lizzo, it had nothing to do with the subject at hand that the person asking the questions brought up. Like, he literally decided out of nowhere, I'm just going to go in on Lizzo. Then when he faces backlash for it, it's an opinion. Nah, there's a difference between opinion and hate. I mean, yes, it is a word that gets thrown around too much nowadays. Like, you're a hater. But to be honest, there are times where that word is warranted. And Aries Spears, I mean, I remember, I think it was last week, because I'm not a Vlad TV member, so I don't watch like the interviews in one sitting. Like, hey, DL Hughley's on, I want to watch his entire interview at once. No, I'm just a regular person subscribed, so I get the clips like, hey, here's part 1 through 24. You get a clip per day of a specific interview. And he was talking about this clip of Vlad brought up a clip from a comedy show where I think he told like a trans joke and there was a couple in the front row that wasn't laughing. So he decided to, just go at him. Like, these people weren't heckling him or nothing. They were just sitting at the front and weren't laughing. So he literally just went in on them to the point where they both got up and left, even called him the FAGGOT word as they were leaving. And it's like, I get it. Like, as a comedian, it kind of sucks. You can have the whole room laughing, but like the 1 or 2, 3 people in the front row not laughing, that's who you'll focus on. But there's a difference between like kind of taking the jab, oh, what, you don't find that funny, versus just staying on them and just going in for no reason at all. Like, I feel like that defeats the purpose of his statement about opinions, because while I agree that, hey, comedy, music, movies, or whatever is subjective and you can give your thoughts on it, but how is it fair for you to be able to sit on these platforms or even in your home and like tweet out different thoughts and opinions on stuff, or say your own thoughts and opinions on stuff on a podcast, yet when someone's at your comedy show and doesn't laugh, you decide to attack them? Do they not have the right to the opinion that maybe your joke wasn't funny? Just because they didn't laugh at that trans joke, that doesn't mean they wouldn't have laughed at another joke later on in your set. So I don't know. He's really one of those people where, yeah, you could tell that the reason he hasn't made it bigger in the industry is due to like the bridges he burns and the things he says. Like, I remember years ago during one of his first interviews on Vlad TV, he went at Key and Peele, Jordan Peele. Yeah, and that's why when he auditioned for one of his movies, he feels like that's probably the reason he didn't get it. I think Cedric the Entertainer got the role instead. But yeah, it's like you get on these platforms and you talk about stuff in a way where it's like, yeah, that's probably not going to get you where you want to go. And honestly, I do think Aries is funny. I think one of my favorite jokes from him, I think it was from that one special where he, ironically enough, had blackface on the cover of the DVD. It was like, look, Hollywood, I'm smiling, or something like that. I remember he was talking about Popeyes. Like, I think anyone who can come to the United States, you got to learn English. It's like, I shouldn't need to go to Popeyes and it feels like I'm playing Family Feud whenever I'm trying to order, because you can't understand what I'm saying and I can't understand what you're saying. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on that. Aries, like, again, free to have your opinion, but there's a difference between answering a question and just going on a tangent that's, seemingly full of hate. So with that being said, let me know your thoughts on Aries Spears and his opinions on, well, not necessarily his opinion on Ice Cube, but do you understand where I'm coming from in that there's a difference between answering a question and just using a chance to just go at someone that's completely unwarranted?